Let me start by telling you something that might challenge the way you've been taught to think. You don't attract what you want. You don't attract success just because you want it. You don't attract love simply because your heart aches for it. And you sure don't attract wealth just because your vision board says so. You attract who you are. That's the law. And it's not just philosophy, it's reality. Your life, right now, is a mirror, a direct reflection of the person you've become. Now, that might be sobering, or it might be empowering. And tonight I want it to be empowering. Let's dive into this idea and see how you can become the kind of person who naturally attracts the life you've been dreaming about. We live in a world obsessed with want more money, want more success, want a better body, better relationship, better life. Social media is flooded with affirmations and dream boards and manifest it mantras. Wanting has almost become a spiritual practice. But here's the hard truth. Wanting doesn't change anything. If it did, everyone would be wealthy, happy, and fulfilled by now. The truth is, there are people who want deeply, desperately, and sincerely and still come up short. Not because they're not worthy, but because wanting is only the starting point. Wanting is the spark, not the fire. Think about a garden. If all you do is want it to bloom, but never till the soil, never plant the seeds, never pull the weeds, what will grow? Nothing. Or worse, weeds will take over. Life works the same way. Desire without discipline leads to disappointment. A man once said to me, "I want to build a business that gives my family freedom." I said, "That's beautiful. What have you done today to move toward that?" He said, "I've been thinking about it for months." Thinking is not building. Dreaming is not doing. Wanting is not working. We don't get what we want. We get what we're willing to become. Desire is passive. It asks, "Wouldn't it be nice?" But the life you're after doesn't respond to nice. It responds to necessary. Until your goal becomes necessary. Until it moves from I wish to I will, it remains just that, a wish. Want to know the difference between someone who wants something and someone who becomes something. Habits. The one who becomes wakes up early, even when it's cold. They study when no one's watching. They take care of their health, even when stress tempts them to sabotage it. They say no to short-term pleasure for long-term gain. They work on their mindset, not just their checklist. Most people don't lack desire. They lack consistency. They lack the identity to match the dream they're chasing. Let me show you what I mean. A young woman wanted to become a writer. She wanted to write novels, inspire millions. She told me, "This is my passion." I asked, "How many words did you write today?" She said, "None. It's just been so busy. I haven't had the right space. I'm waiting for inspiration." That's the trap. Waiting, wanting, hoping, but never becoming. I told her real writers write, even on bad days. Even when they hate every word. Even when no one's watching. You're not a writer because you have a story in your heart. You're a writer when you sit down and write. That conversation changed her. She began waking up at 5 a.m. before work. She didn't wait for motivation. She created a system. 1 year later, she published her first book. Not because she wanted it more, but because she became someone worthy of that result. This is the gap most people never close. They want a six-figure income, but don't study their industry. They want love, but don't know how to love themselves. They want peace, but cling to chaos. They want confidence, but feed their insecurities. They want success, but keep showing up as the same version of themselves every day. It's like planting apple seeds and wishing for oranges. The law of the harvest doesn't change based on how much you hope. It gives you what you've planted. If your life isn't producing what you hoped, maybe it's time to check the seed, not just the soil. And here's the good news. You can plant something new. Today, right now. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfect. But you do need to be honest. Ask yourself, am I living in alignment with the life I say I want? Are my actions preparing me for the thing I'm praying for? If the life I dream about showed up today, would I be ready to hold it? Because the world doesn't hand you what you want. It hands you what you're ready for. Wanting something deeply and doing nothing is spiritual self-sabotage. It creates frustration, bitterness, You begin to resent the world for not giving you what you were never prepared to receive. That's why the key is never just in the desire, it's in the development. Wanting is the seed, becoming is the growth, and growth is uncomfortable. It stretches you, it humbles you, it demands your ego step aside, and your discipline step up. But here's the reward. When you begin to become, you stop chasing things. You start attracting them. Because who you are is always stronger than what you want. You are not a passive receiver in this life. You are not a leaf blowing in the wind, hoping good things land in your lap. You are a magnet. Every single day you are attracting people, opportunities, outcomes, and you're doing it without saying a word. Not with your intentions, not with your vision board, but with your identity, with your energy, with your actions. Life doesn't respond to what you're chasing. It responds to what you're in harmony with. There's a reason some people always seem to be in the right room, meet the right people, get the right breaks. It's not luck, it's not chance, it's resonance. They've built themselves into the kind of person that aligns with those outcomes. Your mindset is a frequency. Your habits are a frequency. Your language, your body posture, your choices, all broadcast a signal to the world. And the world sends you back what matches. If you walk around with fear, scarcity, insecurity, you attract situations that confirm those things. If you move through life with confidence, clarity, and integrity, you start attracting better things, not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. Imagine walking into a room full of opportunity, but bringing the energy of doubt. Imagine standing in front of a mentor, a business partner, or even a potential soulmate, yet carrying the weight of your unresolved past, low self-esteem, or bitterness from old wounds. What do you think you'll attract? Not what you want, what you are. There's a story I heard about a man who walked into a new town and asked a local, "What are the people like around here?" The local replied, "What were they like where you came from?" The man said, "Rude, unfriendly, selfish." The local nodded, "That's exactly how they are here too." Then another traveler came by and asked the same question. The local said again, "What were they like where you came from?" She said, "Kind, helpful, good people." He smiled, "You'll find the same here." We don't experience the world as it is, we experience it as we are. We attract what confirms our identity, not what conflicts with it. When people say, "I keep attracting toxic people," what they often don't realize is that they're carrying something unhealed, something unresolved that toxic energy latches onto. It doesn't mean they deserve it. It means there's something in them that still hasn't shifted. When they heal, their circle changes. Not because the world changed, but because they did. You can't fake your frequency. You can fake confidence. You can fake ambition. You can fake effort. But the energy underneath, the truth, that's what life responds to. A student once asked a mentor, "How can I attract more success?" The mentor said, "Don't focus on attracting success. Focus on becoming someone success would want to be around." It hit me. That changes everything. Because it moves the focus off chasing and onto transforming. It's not about hunting the life you want. It's about becoming a version of you that naturally calls it in. Look at someone who's truly magnetic. Not loud, not flashy, but grounded, clear, confident. They aren't chasing validation, they carry a quiet certainty. That energy is powerful. People want to be around them. Opportunities find them. That's not magic, that's alignment. We are taught to go out and get, but the real shift happens when you start to attract. Not through force, but through growth. If you want better conversations, become a better listener. If you want trust, become someone who keeps their word. If you want abundance, stop acting like someone in survival mode. If you want peace, stop rehearsing the chaos. The law of attraction doesn't just work through thoughts, it works through embodiment. You don't attract what you visualize. You attract what you consistently live out. A job you're not qualified for won't find you. A relationship you're not emotionally ready for will fall apart. A lifestyle you haven't disciplined yourself to maintain will slip through your fingers. Your life won't rise to meet your dreams. It will fall to meet your habits. You have to make a decision. Who am I becoming? Because the version of you that has the life you want isn't dreaming about it. They've built routines. They've had hard conversations. They've failed, learned, grown. They've raised their standards. They've let go of comfort. And they've chosen alignment over approval. You are already a magnet. That's not up for debate. The only question is, what are you currently attracting? If you want to change your results, don't chase, don't beg, don't wait. Shift who you are. The world will adjust accordingly. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the difference between short bursts of change and lasting transformation. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you believe you are. And the results in your life, your relationships, your income, your habits, your health, they don't lie. They reflect your internal story, the narrative you tell yourself about who you are, what you deserve, and what's possible for you. You can have the best strategies, the most expensive courses, the clearest vision, but if your identity doesn't match what you're reaching for, you will sabotage yourself. You'll call it bad luck. You'll say the timing wasn't right. But deep down, it was a mismatch between what you wanted and who you were. This is why people get stuck in cycles. They lose the weight, then gain it back. They get the job, then underperform, or burn out. They fall in love, then push the other person away. They make money, then blow it. Because their identity hadn't caught up with their new reality. Their external environment changed, but their internal world didn't. Identity always wins. That's why change doesn't start with action. It starts with belief. If you believe you're unworthy, no achievement will ever feel like enough. If you believe you're broken, every success will feel like a mistake. If you believe you're not smart enough, talented enough, or capable enough, you will unconsciously pull back, just when things start to move forward. A person who identifies as a failure will sabotage progress to stay consistent with that belief. Because deep down, the brain craves consistency more than success. It wants the familiar, the predictable. Even if that familiarity is pain, you can see this play out in everyday life. A man raised in poverty wins the lottery, becomes an overnight millionaire. And 2 years later, he's broke. Why? Because he never changed his identity. He still saw himself as someone who couldn't manage money. So he returned to the comfort zone of scarcity. But look at someone who worked for every dollar, built habits, educated themselves, and grew into the role of a wealth builder. Even if they lose everything, they can rebuild. Because wealth wasn't just a number in their bank account, it became part of who they were. The same is true in every area of life. If you want to create change, you must first ask, who is the kind of person that naturally has what I'm after? Then become that through small, consistent, daily decisions. A woman wants to feel confident. She tries affirmations. She buys the clothes. She changes her hair. But the change doesn't stick, because the voice in her head still whispers, "You're not enough." She hasn't changed the identity that's driving her actions. But what if she stopped chasing confidence and started doing what confident people do? Speaking up in meetings, taking care of her body, setting boundaries, celebrating her wins. Not because she feels confident, but because she's practicing being someone who values herself. Over time, the repetition rewires her identity. The story changes. Confidence becomes real, not because she waited for the feeling, but because she built the foundation. Behavior follows belief, but belief is built, not wished for. Here's a powerful truth. Your identity is not fixed. It's not set in stone. It's a choice. You can rewrite it. You can shape it. But only if you become aware. Ask yourself, what story have I been telling myself about who I am? Where did it come from? Whose voice does it sound like? And is it still serving me? Maybe you were told you weren't smart, so you play small. Maybe you were told you weren't lovable, so you chase validation. Maybe you were told success is for other people, so you shrink every time you get close to winning. That's not your truth. That's someone else's limitation, dressed up as your identity.
And here's the shift.
Once you change the story, you change the outcome.
はい。
Because your subconscious mind does everything in its power to stay consistent with the story you believe.
おう。
Tell it a new story. Not based on where you've been, but on who you choose to become. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to start showing up differently.
うん。
Make decisions as the version of you who's already healed. Set boundaries like someone who respects themselves. Work like someone who knows their purpose matters. Speak like someone who deserves to be heard.
うん。
Love like someone who knows they are worthy of being loved back. The actions will feel awkward at first because they don't match the old identity. That's normal. It's called resistance. But if you stay consistent, the discomfort fades and the new story becomes the new you. Identity is the root. Outcomes are the fruit. If you want to change the harvest, you have to change what's growing beneath the surface. You can learn a lot about a person not by asking them questions, but by walking through their life. Look at their home, their relationships, their habits, their finances, their energy. What you see outside is usually just a reflection of what's happening inside. This is a truth most people overlook. We think our environment is something that happens to us, something outside of our control. But in most cases, your environment is a projection of the standards you've accepted and the identity you've embraced. Your bedroom tells a story. So does your bank account. So does your calendar. It's all a mirror. If your space is chaotic, it's often because your mind is overwhelmed. If your relationships are full of drama, it's often because you haven't learned to protect your peace. If your time is always spent reacting to other people's demands, it's often because you haven't decided what truly matters to you. One of the fastest ways to change your life is to raise your standards for what you allow into your environment. Not from a place of perfection, but from a place of clarity. Look around and ask yourself, does this space support the person I'm becoming? Do these people reflect the values I say I stand for? Do my habits align with the vision I have for my future? The answer isn't always comfortable, but it's always revealing. There's a reason some people never grow, even though they have big goals. It's because they never upgrade the environment that surrounds those goals. They try to evolve while staying in the same room with the same voices, the same distractions, the same patterns, and wonder why nothing changes. Growth requires disruption. It requires separation from what no longer matches the direction you're headed. Think of a plant. You can't grow a tree in a tiny pot. It doesn't matter how good the seed is. If the soil is shallow, if the roots can't stretch, the tree will stay stunted. People are the same. You can have all the potential in the world, but if your environment doesn't support that growth, you'll always feel stuck. Not because you lack ability, but because you've outgrown the conditions you're in. There's a story about a goldfish. In a small tank, it grows to about 2 inches. Put that same goldfish in a larger pond, and it can grow to 8 or 10 inches. Same fish, same DNA, different environment. You're not stuck, you might just be in the wrong tank. Sometimes you need to leave the group chat. Sometimes you need to clean your house, not just to tidy it, but to send a signal to your mind that you are worth order. Sometimes you need to distance yourself from people who knew the old you and can't accept the new one. You don't rise in life by staying loyal to chaos. You rise when you start choosing alignment over comfort. And yes, it can be lonely at first. Changing your environment can mean saying no more often. It can mean being misunderstood. It can mean spending more time alone while you recalibrate your circle. But loneliness is better than being surrounded by people who drain you. You are not just influenced by your environment, you are shaped by it. Your language, your posture, your ambition. All of it is either being elevated or eroded by what surrounds you. And the shift happens when you stop adjusting yourself to fit your environment and instead start adjusting your environment to match the person you're becoming. Successful people curate their world with intention. They don't just let anyone have access to their energy. They don't just absorb what the news, social media, or society says. They protect their mornings. They design their workspace. They feed their minds and bodies like their future depends on it, because it does. You can't control everything, but you can control what you tolerate. You can say, this mess isn't helping me think clearly. I'm cleaning it. You can say, this friendship always leaves me drained. I'm stepping back. You can say, this habit doesn't align with the vision I have for my life, I'm replacing it. And each time you make that choice, you're not just changing your surroundings, you're reinforcing a new identity. You're saying, I respect myself enough to build a life that supports my growth. Environment isn't just where you live, it's what you listen to, what you believe, what you tolerate, what you repeat. The strongest transformations don't always come from dramatic external shifts. Sometimes they come from small intentional changes in your environment, repeated consistently, until your surroundings begin to match the level you've been growing into. People often think transformation is about doing more. Work harder, push further, add more to your plate, read more books, stack up more credentials. And while action is necessary, it's not the root of real change. Real change starts before the action. It begins where no one else can see on the inside. If you try to change your life without changing yourself, you'll only exhaust yourself. That's why people burn out. They try to fix the external without addressing the internal. They change jobs but still feel unfulfilled. They move cities, but carry the same pain. They start new relationships, but keep repeating the same patterns. Different scenery, same self. External shifts without internal transformation lead to temporary results. The deeper work, the work that lasts, isn't glamorous. It's not what gets the likes or applause. It happens in quiet moments. It's the decision to heal what hurt you instead of hiding it. It's the choice to forgive someone not for their sake, but so your heart can be free to move forward. It's asking yourself the hard questions. It's facing the beliefs you've been carrying since childhood and asking, is this still true? Or is this just familiar? Change is less about rearranging the furniture and more about rebuilding the foundation. This is why two people can attend the same seminar, hear the same advice, read the same book, and only one of them changes. It's not about what you learn. It's about what you're ready to receive. Transformation doesn't happen when you hear new information. It happens when that information lands, when it clicks, when it hits a nerve, when it stirs something in your spirit and says, I can't keep living like this. That's when the shift begins. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize the external chase is just a symptom of an internal gap. They say things like, I keep trying to prove something. No matter how much I achieve, it's never enough. I sabotage things as soon as they start going well. I feel like I don't deserve this. These are not issues of strategy, they're issues of identity, belief, and emotional wiring. You don't overcome them by doing more. You overcome them by going deeper. And that's where courage comes in. Because it's easier to distract yourself with productivity than to sit with yourself in silence. It's easier to keep chasing validation than to confront your insecurity. It's easier to blame the world than to look in the mirror and ask, what am I still carrying that no longer belongs in this version of me? You can't build a new life on top of an old self-concept. You have to shed. You have to release. You have to do the emotional work that clears space for what you're really meant to step into. Real transformation is not just learning, it's unlearning. Unlearning the belief that you're not good enough. Unlearning the habit of overthinking every decision. Unlearning the addiction to external approval. Unlearning the fear that if you slow down, you'll fall behind. And once you start to unlearn, something powerful happens. Space opens up. In that space, clarity comes. And with clarity comes alignment. And with alignment, your actions become powerful, not because you're doing more, but because now you're doing what matters. This is the shift from pressure to purpose, from performance to presence, from force to flow. Because when your internal world is grounded, your external world begins to take shape without the constant struggle. You stop chasing, you start choosing, you stop fighting yourself, you start supporting yourself. You become someone who makes decisions from peace, not panic. Someone who sets boundaries without guilt. Someone who works from passion, not pressure. Someone who leads from authenticity, not approval. Someone who trusts the process, even when the results aren't instant. Transformation doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it builds, it roots itself. It takes shape with patience, presence, and power. It doesn't scream for attention. It quietly becomes undeniable, and the people around you feel it. They notice the shift in your tone, the stillness in your energy, the clarity in your eyes. They may not be able to explain it, but they'll feel it. Because when someone changes from the inside out, it radiates. Not through volume, but through vibration. That's the kind of transformation that lasts. The kind that reshapes not only what you do, but who you are, and therefore what you attract. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to become fully yourself. The version of you that was buried under old wounds, false beliefs, and external expectations. The version of you that knows your value, that knows your voice, that knows your worth, isn't found in the world, it's brought to the world. That's when life starts meeting you differently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. Your desires are not denied, because they're too big, they're delayed, because the version of you asking for them hasn't yet become the version ready to hold them. The dream is real, the vision is valid, but the path to getting there isn't paved with wishing, it's built with becoming. You've heard the truth tonight. Wanting isn't enough. Action aligned with identity is what matters. You are a magnet, and you are always attracting, so choose who you are becoming, not just what you are chasing. Identity drives outcome. Your life doesn't change until you do. Your environment reflects your inner world. Elevate your surroundings, and your life will follow. Real transformation begins from the inside out. The work no one sees shapes the life everyone will. If you want more, become more, not for the world's approval, but for your own alignment. The most powerful shift you can ever make is the moment you stop asking, "How do I get that?" and start asking, "Who must I become to attract that effortlessly?" When you become the person who is healthy, wealthy, loving, disciplined, clear, and grounded, you no longer chase the life you want, you attract it. You hold it, you sustain it. The external world bends to match the internal one. That's not motivational fluff, it's spiritual law, psychological fact, and the root of every lasting transformation. So don't just write down your goals, write down your standards, write down your identity, your values, the way you speak to yourself, the way you show up when no one's clapping. Because when you rise, everything around you has no choice but to rise with you. You don't need to chase what you want, you just need to become the version of you who naturally attracts it. And that version of you, they're already inside you, waiting, ready. Now is the time to bring them to life.